Welcome back everyone to the BMA's Future Water Theatre for our 1 o'clock session, which is on the quite controversial topic, I think, of banishing rogue traders and how that might be achieved through licensing. So, going to kick off with some introductions to my fellow panellists, and I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself in your own words rather than a lengthy bio from me. So let's start with you, Damien.
Good afternoon, thank you for the invite. My name is Damien Walters. I'm the Chief Executive of the British Institute of Kitchen, Bedroom and Bathroom Installation. And for those people who want to find out a bit more, we're over that way somewhere.
Good afternoon. I'm Kevin Wildman, CEO of the Chartered Institute of Plumbing and Meeting Engineering. Is that one done as well now?
No, there we are.
It's you, Kevin, it's you.
Yeah, I think it is. I'm also Deputy Chair of the World Plumbing Council.
Thanks, Kevin. That's Kevin Wellman, by the way, if everyone didn't catch that. So in this discussion today, we're hoping to have an interactive element. So there is a way for you to contribute to this discussion. If I could ask everyone to get their phones out, scan that QR code behind me or go to mentimeter.com. Enter the code. If you scan the QR code, it'll take you there automatically. And we're going to have both a vote at the start and at the end of the session. And you can enter your questions, your remarks, using this system as well. So please, no obscenities, but unless you feel they are absolutely necessary.
What could possibly go wrong?
Yeah, it's not in any way curated, so this is the raw feedback that we're getting from you in the audience. Damien, before we open the vote, I'm going to come to you first and ask for the current state of licensing for plumbers and bathroom installers right now.
So I can definitely answer the bit around bathroom installers. The current state is that pretty much anyone can be a bathroom installer. There are very few barriers to entry. Whether you're a time-served installer, someone new to the market, or perhaps an opportunist entering the market, there's very little barrier actually, and I think that's something that we need to overcome, and hopefully this discussion will help kind of overturn some of those some of the challenges that we may face.
From the plumbing side and heating, then yes, there are big issues. Clearly we know that for those of you who are undertaking gas work, then you need to be gas safe registered and prior to that it was quality. The problem that I see really is that manufacturers invest many thousands of pounds in technology, product development, and then as an industry, anybody was there just said is to install these products. So there are some fundamental problems there that we need to try to address.
Hopefully everyone scan this code now and we can go to our first vote. So we're asking the question, should all plumbers and bathroom installers be licensed? Yes or no? So get on your phones. Let's see what you have to say. So I've got people voting at the moment. Does seem to be a majority emerging here. Any more votes before we move on?
Yes.
Okay, so current answer is yes, but there's still some doubters. So let's see whether that changes through the course of the discussion. So feel free now, as we're having this discussion, to contribute your comments and give us a feeling. Put questions to our panelists as well. But let's start with you, Kevin, and just fleshing out what you see as the primary benefits to a licensing regime.
Thank you for that. Yeah, the key thing really is the education and the training. We're very much aware that there is a skill shortage. Government knows about that, just whether it's with regards to net zero and the installation of heat pumps, or whether it's other areas and activities. There are problems within the plumbing sector, such as the amount of water that is wasted through leaking loos and such things. Government is wanting to introduce a mandatory labelling scheme, and there's a lot of discussion going on about the merits of that and so on. But clearly, if you're going to have mandated schemes, you need to have, in my opinion, some sort of mandatory compulsory registration or licensing for the industry as well. So one big success as far as Corby in the old days and gas safe is concerned is that registration has always been linked to having the need for some sort of regular training, ACS training and so on. I think from our point of view, given the fact that there is a skill shortage, we either carry on the way we are, or we're going to accept the fact that we are wasting lots of money in all these different areas. As far as the insurance sector is concerned, they're paying out £2 million a day in escape of water insurance claims to some 62,000 bed days taken up in hospitals for people who have been either scalded through hot water appliances or who have been burnt as a result of hot water radiators and pipelines and things. So again, these are issues that can't go away until there's better training. The whole training regime does need to be reviewed as far as I'm concerned. It's clearly, I think the only way to do it is to have compulsory licensing in place, so that is a level playing field for the street.
Damien, coming to you next, how do you see that an industry-led rather than government-led registration and licensing regime could benefit the sector as a whole?
You know what, Tom? I think there's a key point made there, how it's industry-led and not government-led. For me, it has to be industry-led. It's, you know, we're the experts. Don't leave it to the guys in Westminster, for Christ's sake. We've all seen what could possibly go wrong if that happened, Kevin. But listen, I think the big thing for me is around separating those who are competent, compliant, and able to do a great job for consumers with perhaps those who don't. And that's the key thing is for me. And I mean, so yeah, I mean, look, I think it's about separating good from everybody else. And that's the key thing. I'm not sure that's working, Tom.
So, Kevin, obviously, if we do introduce a licensing regime, that's quite a big change for the sector. What are the hurdles that are going to have to be overcome, and what challenges do you see occurring in that implementation build?
Yes, well, firstly, I think there's no doubt there will be cost implications. So then again, if it's a level playing field across the board, then everybody needs to comply if they want to be recognised as a true plumbing installer, plumbing heating installer. There will be people who are concerned about training, but as I mentioned earlier, we need people to be better skilled and trained across all these disciplines. So if you have a licensing scheme in place that is supported by government, but not run by government, I think then that helps out an awful lot, because you're getting that buy-in from the various government departments, whether it is DEFRA, because they know that we'll do something about trying to save all the waste of the leakages and so on. If it's DESNES, because of the work that's going to be done with regards to low temperature qualification and heating. There's no doubt about it that with DESNES, they have said, as a result of their boiler efficiency standards consultation, that they do want to make low temperature training mandating. So clearly, once government starts that, then we need a system in place to recognise it and to ensure that all installers are certainly complying to that as well.
Kevin, sticking with you for the time being, if I may, are there any examples around the world where a licensing regime has been implemented and works well?
Yes, a fair question, and there are many countries that do have various types of licensing. With the likes of Germany, they have a mandated training. So it's a 4-year training course, which once the individual qualifies, they're deemed to be a Meister craftsperson. So again, the master of their trades, because they are ready to go out into the industry. And as part of that, they can do additional training to then set up and develop a business. So they're encouraged to do the right thing in one. With the likes of Australia, they have the training mandated, but also licensed plumbers in place. In New Zealand as well, because there's licensing there. Hong Kong, they have a licensed plumber arrangements approved by the government. And so the CIPAG is one of the organisations that can license qualified people in Hong Kong. But then other countries have it as well, in certain states in the US. We do find that it is the only way to better regulate the industry and make improvements, and enforcement is key to that as well.
Damien, I know you collaborate in the US, in particular around compliance and standards. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, we're good friends with the North American Association. and Global Connect, we're association partners, and that's for us to understand the complexities of international regulation. As you can imagine, the Americans either doing really well or not so well, and in some respects, actually, what they do well is that they have very clear guidelines on who can do what and when. But I think importantly, adding to that, and that's where I think this is where it becomes actually a valuable asset, is that sign-off to jobs is mandatory, and that there's a consequence for if you get it wrong as a tradesperson, and there's a consequence for a consumer if you don't do it right. And I think that's actually key for us. I think licensing and regulation and that's absolutely fine, but there needs to be a mechanism in place to be able to measure that, dare I say, police it, and that's going to be as big a challenge as licensing its actual self. So if we can get that, then I actually think the good guys will get better, and I think it will push out those who have no interest in complying, and we don't want them in the industry anyway.
So that leads quite nicely on to my next question to Kevin, which was going to be how a licensing regime can help distinguish competent and professional plumbers and installers from the less competent, less able, less distinguished organisations. Tell us your view on that.
Yeah, I think the first part is to certainly get industry buy-in, because there are lots of organisations who would have a vested interest in this sort of activity, and what you can't do is just that one organisation responsible for everything. Many of us talk about competency, and we know it's things to recognise that. We need to bring those together so we have a true umbrella scheme so that people are not disadvantaged, because there are a lot of installers who don't belong to anybody. But when we come back to what is the main reason behind the need for this, in my opinion, is to look after the public safety, public benefits. Either the public are being ripped off because of poor plumbing, or there's leakage, as I've mentioned, £2 million a day being spent by insurance companies. These are problems caused by unscrupulous, unqualified installers who are using products that aren't installed properly. Those claims I'm talking about are very rarely product failures. It is down to bad workmanship. So the key thing there is to then say, if you're working in somebody's house, you need to be adequately qualified, but as part of the scheme, if there are problems, you can actually be removed following a trigger place investigation.
I'm gonna. It's really great that we've had some contributions from the audience during this discussion. I'm going to bring some of those contributions in right now and see what our panelists' response to them is, because I think it'll be quite interesting. So, first off, is how many people here now are qualified plumbers and have just voted? So, just one person in the audience. I think that's really interesting.
Yes, I'm done.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point.
What did you vote?
No.
He voted, so the one qualified plumber voted no to this. Isn't that interesting? So, another question. Escape of water is a water board issue, and scalding water is mostly from cooking. Kevin, respond to that, because I know we work quite closely on TMVs, haven't we? So tell us about that.
I think there's no doubt about it that water companies do have the responsibility with the amount of water leakage that they have within their distribution pipes and so on. The leakage that I'm talking about, the £2 million a day, is not water company related. This is purely the problems associated with bad installations. Likewise, the 400 million litres of water a day that is lost through leaky loos, that's an industry issue that can be sorted. However, the industry, I'm not there putting the favourite installers directly for that, because it's not necessarily their fault in the first place. And it's products that then need to be changed. Manufacturers need to help out with that, which they're willing to do so. But the key issue here is that we need qualified people who recognise what the problem is, because those people who are, don't say water meters, and there's all this water leaking happening, it will be costing them financially on a day-to-day basis anyway.
Next point, I think, is an absolutely great one, and something that the BMA's been campaigning on for some time now, and that's why are manufacturers allowed to sell products that are not allowed to be fitted? Now, credible manufacturers jump through massive hoops in order to make sure that their products are tested and definitely compliant with the various different regulations. There's certification schemes. I've seen people from RAS, Kiwa and NSF marking the floor during installer show. So credible manufacturers jump through hoops, but unfortunately there are products on the marketplace sold in merchants and in retailers that aren't compliant. That needs to change. There needs to be proper, serious market surveillance and enforcement activity, and that starts with trading standards that are properly resourced. This is something we've been talking to government about for some time, but the next government, whichever political stripe they may be, really does need to act. From an installation installer point of view, presumably you're on board with that message, but I'll let you put it into your own words.
100%, yeah. Sadly, a lot of this is cost-led. Consumers not wanting to spend, installers wanting easy lives. But yeah, without a shadow of a doubt, there needs to be regulation on that. But it goes back to my point on licensing in general, really. It's all very well putting the rules into place and not only the good manufacturers doing the right thing, but the retailers and the merchants doing the right thing. You've got to have a mechanism essentially to police that, because if you don't, it's toothless. And actually the good businesses that are out there will be spending lots and lots of money on being compliant, and that will be reflected in the costs, obviously to the consumer. But then the rogues that are out there just get away and do it even cheaper and do a rubbish job. And that's actually the area of the market that we need to focus on, not the guys that are doing a good job.
I think this, the example that you've used for installers there also applies to rogue manufacturers, and they do exist.
Absolutely.
They typically, I hasten to add, outside of BMA membership, but OPSS at least, which is the Government Office for Product Safety and Standards, is now talking about enforcement at port of entry as well.
Yeah.
Imported products. That's really, really important.
That's good.
Kevin, allow you to come in now.
Just to add to that as well. Firstly, I do believe that more should be done about non-compliant products, because that is the major problem across all websites. Plumbing and heating. I'd like to go back to one of the other issues as well, because I didn't fully answer the part about the hot water scald. I did mention earlier that there were some 62,000 bed days over the last 10 years taken up by people who have been admitted because of scalds, and also for those who have been burnt through pipes and radiators. The scalding is hot water related, taps and showers. That doesn't feature as part of the other issues that were mentioned as well. So these are plumbing related issues that have been recorded over the last 10 years. So that they are accurate. By the way, I should say that they are provided by NHS Digital, so it is a legitimate source.
Another question: what is stopping Tom from the pub? I don't know how they knew that they'd find me there, but there we are. From undercutting a City and Guilds plumber to carry out work? I think that's a great question. It's right at the heart of this issue, isn't it?
You know what? The thing for me is that you've got some great businesses out there who are trying to do the right thing, earning an honest crust. At the moment, they're against everyone else. And I know we've got our one vote over here from our qualified plumber, who really is against regulation. And I think if regulation is done incorrectly, I think the problem that you've got is it can almost be seen as a little bit of a hidden tax. However, if it's done correctly, actually what it will do is separate the strong from the not so strong, and help the not so strong become strong. But most importantly, it will banish the rogue. And we have got to get to that point here in the UK where the rogues can't have a seat at the table. I think we need to do something about it, because not only are consumers struggling as a result of that and are losing out, but our industry is, and that affects everybody in this room broadly.
I'm going to come back to some audience questions in a moment, but crack on with our questions. So, Damien, what role should training and continuous professional development have in all of this? Because that's something that I know manufacturers are really, really passionate about, that CPD, to make sure that the trade is up to date on the newest products.
Well, Kevin touched on that earlier, and I think training, CPD, initial qualification plays an absolute pivotal role in all of that. I mean, how else are you going to measure? What are the standards that you're essentially going to set to make regulation a thing? It has to pivot around training and education, not just up front, but a continual level of training and development throughout your career. If you look at most trades, if you take architecture, take doctors, take policing, take the medical profession, which are businesses, which are professions that, we should be standing shoulder to shoulder to. CPD is an absolutely integral part of all of that, yet actually in plumbing, and certainly in bathroom installation, that's not the case. And we're all missing out as a result of that.
And the CPD training is pretty readily available, and actually, far from being costly, it's available for free in most cases, isn't it?
Yeah.
Kevin, what are the sources of good CPD training?
Well, again, manufacturers play a really critical role in what I would say would be to underpin the educational system. So colleges do a great job with regards to their input into training, but then the manufacturers have all the up-to-date technologies and the information there. Also, as far as we're concerned, our members have access to our learnings academy, so there's information available through that as well. And as Tom said, lots of this is freely available. Sometimes it may well be costly with some manufacturers' training provision than more expensive training provision. But essentially, the main thing from my point of view is that we've all got to get cuter with regards to our training delivery. We need to make it fit for purpose, not fully PowerPoint generated. We need to look at what calling it the technologies to utilise 3D information as well as a proper interactive training tool. These sorts of things we can actually do remotely, so you don't have to be in a college environment for that as well. So CPD is something that you should be able to do outside the normal working hours if at all possible. Clearly, when it comes to a full apprenticeship, that's a different situation.
Kevin, I'm going to stick with you. And I think this cuts really to the heart of maybe some of the objections to licensing, and that's how can we ensure that it's not just seen as another tax on tradesmen, that there's delivering something that's positive for the trade.
Yeah, I think that one of the biggest problems we have is our image. And if you look at plumbers in Canada, in America, they have a much higher status.
They do.
And they're treated on par with doctors. Now, it has been argued with certainly within plumbing, World Plumbing conferences, the plumbers over the years have saved more lives than doctors. Now, we need to just be a little bit careful with that. If you look into that as to what does that really mean, then people have been saved because of all the water-related problems, sanitation issues. There's no doubt about it. If you haven't got good plumbing, safe water systems, or poor sanitation, it does affect lives. And so again, the role that we can all play in safeguarding lives is essential. So the first part of that answer would be, it most definitely is an opportunity to raise the status of the industry, but by then ensuring that people are adequately trained. That raises their status as far as their relationship is with their customers, and they should be able to charge accordingly for that. That all the additional tuition, training and licensing fees would be included within that.
Damien, look, yesterday we were in here talking about apprenticeships and trade in general. What are the potential impacts on that from moving to a licensing regime? Because that is a concern for me, that we're struggling with pipeline of labour at the moment. Could this be a disincentive for aspiring people wanting to come into the profession?
Well, I think it's a good question. I think what we need to do is, consider why people choose careers that they do. Is that working? Intermittently. I think, look, any youngster that wants a career in an industry that they can be proud of. And I think training and development is a critical component of that. I don't think it is something that would put off, good people who want a long career. I want to be deemed to be a professional. I don't think it will be at all. My view on it actually could be more positive than that, in that actually what regulation could do is pay to drive some of that and to really create some support mechanisms for employers essentially.
So boiling that down a little bit, are we talking about turning plumbing and bathroom installation into not just a job but a career?
It has to be. Yeah. It has to. If you look at the product value, look at the potential in risk, it has to be a professional job. And don't get me wrong, I think there's sort of aspiring DIY is great, but actually product is becoming so much more complex now that maybe this should be fitted by professionals and professionals only. Why not?
That's a good point. And 30 years ago, no one would have thought twice about getting under the car and sorting out their motor. Very rarely happens these days, just because the technology's moved on.
Absolutely.
And we're perhaps encountering that same revolution. Kevin, coming to you first, and then back to Damien. What's the role of organisations like yours in implementing a system? Because the cynics among us might suggest that actually you guys have got a vested interest, but tell us what your role is.
Yeah, I would say that the first and foremost thing to bear in mind, and certainly with the CIPHE, we are an education charity. Just hold it there. Hold it there, please. So, hold it a bit further. So, yeah, within the CIPHE, we are an education charity. So our role is to promote all aspects of plumbing and heating engineering in the public interest. So our prime concern is to ensure that they are not being disadvantaged. I know you might then say, well, it could be good for membership and so on. That part of it would certainly be used to encourage raising your standards and then maintaining standards thereafter. And I know I've mentioned a couple of times about a level playing field, but that's essential, because if we raise the capabilities, the competencies, and the skill set of the existing workforce, that's got to be a lot better for us in the longer term.
Damien, do you want to add on to that?
Yes, for the cynics in the room, it is absolutely in our best interest to support that. But let's realise and let's understand why we're here. Our role as an organisation, without a shadow of a doubt, is to improve standards within the KBB industry. So yes, it is in our vested interest to do it. But it goes back to the bit around government versus industry-led. If the government do it and lead it, we're going to be in a bit of trouble. If we lead it and allow government to support it, then that seems like a very sensible way forward. But be under no illusion, should I say, that we are absolutely 100% here to support small businesses who want to do the right thing, who want to deliver a great service, and who want to deliver great standards to those consumers who invest in our industry. And if we can all do that, guess what? We'll all be better off, won't we? It's not rocket science. So yeah, it is in our best interest to do it, and I'm not ashamed to say that.
So, yeah, I think we're in furious agreement that it needs to be industry-led rather than government-led. What are the steps the government should make? Because certainly we talked in our work on some of the product standards that we're trying to update, that it needs to be matched by improvement in standards in the profession as well. What's the steps that government should take?
Step number one, talk to us. Again, this isn't rocket science, is it? I know they've got quite a bit on their plate at the moment, opening up new doctors' surgeries and driving buses around the country, but pause for a moment, talk to industry about the things that are very, very important and that actually have some longevity to any campaign that they'd ever be involved in. But talk to us. We're here, we're willing to talk, we're the voice of our members, we want to share the views of our people around us, and we're in it for the right reasons. So yeah, come knock on the door. We're continuously chasing, Tom, you know that. Kevin will say the same. It's us chasing continuously for minutes of their day. It should be the other way around.
Yeah, just to add to that, I'd say that there's no doubt whatsoever that if you go to government with a problem, that they won't be happy about it. If you go to them with the problem and the solution, then that takes the pressure off. And that's what we're trying to do with some of these other discussions across the board. The clear thing really is you need that government buy-in. All they, as David just mentioned, government needs to have faith in us, because the problem the government has is that ministers across the board, so this is a political statement, but there's no doubt about it that ministers are here today, gone tomorrow, quite often. As far as the industry is concerned, we have associations that have been around for many, many years. BNA, the boards, some of you from Davies organisation point of view. We, as the CIPHE, have been around since 1906. We worked with a company of plumbers, which is another long-standing organisation. They've been around since 1365. There's lots of expertise available within all these organisations that government should be tapping into, so to speak.
Agree, yeah, 100%.
I'm going to come back to some audience questions and points, which I think, again, we've been blessed with some of the points that have been made, and that they're quite interesting, controversial in some cases. But that first question that was put around where we did the hands up on who's a qualified plumber, what sort of feedback are you guys getting from your membership, which does consist of people that are on the tools? Because this is an idea that's been floated for a long time, hasn't it, licensing, and we haven't really made any headway about it. But what you're directed by your members, what feedback are you getting?
Mixed. If I'm being honest with you, mixed. There's going to be people out there that completely understand the bigger picture. There are some out there that will view it as a hidden tax, based on schemes that perhaps they've had to be part of in the past that have delivered no benefits. So I think, mixed is the answer. But I think when we do speak to our membership, they will all say the same thing about being frustrated about infiltration from people, from opportunists essentially, that are descending upon the industry and causing havoc for consumers and for them. So yes, there's some skepticism, but on the other hand, they kind of they're frustrated with the problems of non-regulation, may I add.
Let's start then.
And perhaps I could add a little bit to that as well, and by saying that as far as our membership in Hong Kong is concerned, where we now have 1,600 members, they aspire to become licensed plumbers. So there's no doubt about that. That it's a government-led initiative over there, but it's something that members do actually want to achieve. As far as the UK is concerned, a register was created some years ago, and it was the Register of Plumbers. It was inaugurated on the 21st of July, 1886. So it's the longest serving register of competency that the UK was, certainly as far as plumbing industry is concerned, and has been available. CIPRG maintains that register nowadays. So clearly there are a lot of members within my institute who are very supportive of licensing and registration. So I know that there's buy-in there. Other installers that we talk to and manufacturers are really saying that they want their product installed right first time.
Yeah.
And the best way to do that is to have qualified quality care.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get on to some member questions. Here's a great one. How many of the 3 panelists are qualified installers? Well, hands up. I run a trade association, and I'm a journalist by training, so I don't go anywhere near any tools, even in my own home. Gents.
I have absolutely no qualification on the trade whatsoever. However, none of my members who are qualified have got any experience or qualification in running a trade association. So I think it's fair to say I don't claim to be a fitter of kitchens, bedrooms, or bathrooms. However, I have got 20 years' experience in delivering an association that has teeth. And that's obvious. If I want a bathroom installed, I'll have it installed by a professional, not by a CEO of a trade association. I think that's fair. Hopefully that answers your question.
Okay, from my point of view, I am qualified and proud plumber. I qualified through the City Guild Craft and Advanced Craft qualification. What seems to be a few years ago now.
Was that 18 something?
A little bit of a kind of retrospective view on Corgi. So the question is, what happened with Corgi when the government took it over and then gave it to Gas Safe, and there's now the building safety regulator within HSE as well. So all the competency schemes are evolving, and a bit of frustration for me with sitting within the wider home improvement industry is that it's like alphabet soup that's under these competence schemes, and as nothing's come to I don't think anyone really knows what's going on. So how can we kind of learn the lessons from the past?
Well, I think, clarity ultimately for consumer is the key. The customer needs to know what they're looking for in terms of competency and regulation. I think we need to be very careful on how we deliver it. In terms of lessons learned, that's probably more of a question for you, Kevin, to be honest with you, because only part of what we do really touches on that. But I know that there's still a lot of confusion out there in the marketplace from consumers around who regulates what, and Gas Safe is a good example of that. And you only need to see some of the health and safety research that was done on consumers, and who consumers think are responsible for gas safety, and a lot of people still say corgi. So there needs to be some work on that, and you're right, lessons need to be learned, I would say.
Very. Is it right? Be what?
Yeah, so I also think that there are some problems with competent person schemes because a number of people have said that some of those schemes aren't competent. So if you're having schemes which is supposed to be supporting the industry, you need to have those adequately supported as well. But, so clearly, if those schemes are not working, something needs to be done about those. The customer is confused about a lot of different things, and they get misinformation left, right and centre. So one of the other things that we introduced recently, back against home heating, is a consumer guide, just to break down the myths of the different types of technologies that are available. Not favouring any one technology, just showing what a heat pump does, what hydrogen heating is all about, the right two things. What we need is consistent messaging approved by everybody. The government to get behind this, and again, this is for the public, as far as concerned when it comes to licensing, that sort of thing, that we need buy-in by us.
One last question before we wrap things up. Would you implement a plumbing certificate for every house that had to be renewed each year in the way that exists, certainly in the rental market with gas? I mean, we have a lot of interaction with government. I think it is something that is worthy of consideration. What's your view?
How else are you going to regulate it? That's my question back. Again, it goes down to resources and how we do it. But yeah, I genuinely believe there needs to be consequences if things aren't done correctly. The only way you're going to do that is by ensuring that there's an auditable trail of work that's being carried out in the home. Right now there isn't, and that's the reality of it, sadly.
Yes, a good point. So, what makes it worse from my point of view is when you're actually purchasing a property, a new home, and the flats and so on, you may well get a mortgage report if you needing to go to the bank for financial support. Within that report, it might say, nice front door. It could well say, yes, the building structure is sound, but then when it comes to the electrics, it says, not checked. When it comes to the plumbing, it says, untested. So really what then happens is whatever the value of the house, unless you go for a specific survey that covers all those and the item, which is then a lot more expensive, then the problem is that you'll only find out on the day that you complete it and you've got the keys to the property as to the state of your plumbing system. It could well be it's not operating, the boiler main failed, and so on, but it's then your liability to take on board what it's after that. So linked to this, what we would like to do is have a home health check as part of that house conveyance, so that somebody does go in and check some of those issues as well, because otherwise that there are liabilities to it.
Yeah, agree.
Kevin, thanks very much for that. Let's wrap up with a repeat vote. I have a sneaking suspicion it's not going to be different in any way, shape or form, but
I do know where one vote's going.
with if you've got your phones still active, please drop your votes in. Should all plumbers and bathroom installers be licensed? Has things changed? We've got fewer votes, that's for sure. So in furious agreement by the looks of it. Thanks very much everyone for contributing in the way that you have to this discussion. It's great actually when there are points of difference and some disagreement. That challenge is to be welcomed, I think, because this is a big policy and if it's going to be taken forward, it needs to be challenged. So thank you everyone that's contributed and taken part in the discussion. Please put your hands together for Kevin and David.
Well done, Kevin.